reality portals, portals to different realities. I realised just recently, I was doing a talk on one of my courses, and one of my friends, Sarah, had bought me a little pad. It was like a diary, but each day of the year had a quote from a different Swami or from a different guru. And I looked at it. So every day, the thing you do is every day is you rip off one of the pages and then there's a new quote. But what I realised when I looked at these 365 quotes was that every single one of them was a portal to a whole new reality. A whole new reality. A whole new reality through the portal of one single quote. And I thought how amazing that was. You know, when people say there's not enough out there, there's not enough opportunity, there's no opportunities, you know, people can't get on. But actually, the opportunities are vast. They are vast. There's a vast amount of opportunities. Just this one pad that someone gave me as a gift, 365 portals to opportunities, to realities. Just take one of them. There's a quote on there, say from, I don't know, say there's a quote on there from Yudhisthira. Yudhisthira was one of the Pandava brothers in the Mahabharata. He was Arjuna's brother. This is from the Hindu Bibles. So you got a little quote. So there's a little quote from Yudhisthira or from Arjuna or from Krishna. Any of those, they all come from the same book. So look at the quote and it says, the self is the self's only enemy, the self is the self's only friend. It's just a quote. But actually, if you follow that quote, it opens you up to a vast portal of information. How much do you want? One tiny quote. You follow that quote back. Where's that quote come from? That quote comes from the Bhagavad Gita. So you get the Bhagavad Gita and it's like that. It's a big old tome. So you read the Bhagavad Gita. I know I've mentioned this to you before, if you've listened to some of these, but you open the Bhagavad Gita and it takes you a while to read, but then you realise the Bhagavad Gita is one chapter from the Mahabharata. So you buy the Mahabharata, which is like that. It's a big tome. So the portal opens, this door opens up to more information. It's just information, lots of information, amazing information. So you open that up. And then you realise after you've read the Mahabharata that it's just one section, one kind of chapter in the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is 18 tomes, 10 cantos, 18,000 verses. So you buy that, you invest in that, a vast amount of information, 5,000 years old, and up to the present day as a 5,000 year lineage. So it's always updating and always improving. And then you see that and you get to the end of the Srimad Bhagavatam and you recognise that it's from the Vedas, and it's from the Puranas. And actually this 18,000 verses, which has taken you, you know, I took 2 weeks off work to read it, so it's taken me probably a month to read, you know, full time, is just one small part of the Puranas. So this is 18,000 verses. The Puranas is 400,000 verses. That is a portal reality. That is a portal of information. If you wanted to, that you could spend a lot, you know, all of your life exploring and learning and studying. That's there. And most of it, if you're really switched on, if you're really sharp, most of it you can get free. If you're ready for it, this information will come to you very quickly and very fast. This kind of information that's out there, this information that's trying to lead you towards your own potentiality, to your own kingdom, most of it's free. You can go online and get most of it because this information wants to express itself through you. So I love that. Don't you love that idea that you can read one quote and it opens you up to this vast portal of a whole new reality. So you spend all that time looking at what the Hindus have to say about the world, and what they have to say about the world, from my experience of reading it, and I'm not an expert, but it's very profound, it's very beautiful. It talks about everything from, you know, psychotherapy to money, to sex, to relationships, to power, you know, the battle between good and evil, you know, the sea of nescience. You know, there's just a vast amount of information, and most of it just should corroborate with your experience. It should register. You should read it and think, I knew that already. It's what Plato says, that we read to remember, we don't read to learn. So that's one portal of information. So if you go down the Islam route and you start looking at a quote from Muhammad, where it says something like, those that strive are favoured by God, those that do not strive are not favoured. So it's basically talking about the reciprocal universe. It's basically saying that what we don't use, we will lose. If we push forward, and if we act, the universe will respond. If we do nothing, everything will recede back. It's this parable of the talents. So you take that one quote and it leads you to the Quran. And so you get the Quran and you buy the Quran, and I found it a beautiful book, beautiful text. I loved it. And the Quran, of course, leads you back to the Torah, because the Quran was brought forward to vindicate the Torah. The Torah is the 5 books of Moses, and the 5 books of Moses, of course, goes back to the book of Abraham, which was called the Book of Becoming, which was very early Torah, and Torah means the word. And then if you look at all of those different characters, all of those different prophets, they all have their own portals of reality. They all have their own information. So you look at that, you look at the Quran, that leads you on in lots of different directions. You could read about Muhammad's wife, Khadija, who was this fantastic entrepreneurial woman who really guided Muhammad in his early days, showed him how to become a businessman, helped him when he struggled with his realization of being a prophet. She helped to guide him, she protected him. And she had a vast wealth, and she used the wealth. She was actually the first Muslim. She used her wealth to help build Islam. So you start reading about this very powerful woman, this very powerful entrepreneur. So that's really inspiring. Then you go back to the Torah and you read the Torah, and then you look at that, you think this is interesting. The Torah is called the blueprint to the universe. You think, I want to read more about that. So you go to the beginning, which is Genesis. And you look at Genesis, and then you realise that Emanuel Swedenborg, who was a notable scientist in the late 1800s, did a whole thesis, a whole spiritual, he had a massive epiphany, and was given the interpretation of the Genesis and Exodus of the Torah. So you kind of search that out with Swedenborg, and you realise that Swedenborg has done a whole tome. He's done 13 books, which my wife bought me, just interpreting the subtext of Genesis and Exodus. 13 books just on Genesis and Exodus. So then you can go and buy a book, just buy the book of Moses, which is the 5 books of the Old Testament, and the academic look at it, what all the old words mean and how everything opens up. So when they talk about testing, when God tests us, it talks about the fact that the word test means to purify. Old English means to purify the good from the bad. So we suddenly start thinking, well, testing isn't really about somebody testing me, pointing down and said, let's test this guy. It's not, it's really just about the purification process that we have to go through to really elevate ourselves. So the point I'm trying to labour is that there is a never-ending line of information if you really want it, and it's there, it's available. These places just suddenly appear. This opportunity just appears, I've just finished the Srimad Bhagavatam, and I was really interested in one of the incarnations of Krishna was called Chaitanya. Sorry, it's difficult to pronounce. Chaitanya, and he's done his whole kind of tome of books, about Krishna in the incarnation of this particular character. And it's really, you don't have to fall into any dogma with any of the different systems. The point I'm making is that there are vast amounts of information available to you right now. They're there, and the clues are all around you. They're there. I took someone to BAFTA the other day. I've got a little card, When I won my BAFTA, I was given free membership to BAFTA, and you got a card, and with this card you can go, it gives me entry to any cinema in the country, so I can go and watch. It's a free entry because I'm on the voting panel, so I can go to these cinemas around the country, watch films free, get access to all of the greatest film writers in the world with this one card. If I go down Piccadilly, there's a very small doorway in Piccadilly, and when I slice my card at the door, it opens up and I go into this labyrinth called BAFTA. And in BAFTA, you know, you are suddenly sitting with the best film talent on the planet as we speak now, and that's available for me. Just go and sit whenever I want. There's a cinema, there's a trophy room, there's a cafeteria, which is important. That is a portal that I can open up. If I go into the Groucho Club, it's very similar. Somebody introduced me to the Groucho Club when I first started writing, and it's very difficult to get a membership. You have to be in the industry, you have to have won awards and things. So eventually I get a membership of the BAFTA Club, and I'm able to go and sit in this club and marinate around people of the same ilk, people who are very artistic, who are driven. But it's a portal that it's a portal to a reality that I've opened up, and there are myriad. There are lots of them, you know. There are a million different places that you can go. The information that you're looking for is abundant, and if you take from that abundance, the abundance still remains. That's available to you now. So why don't you just try it? Just pick up a book and follow a quote. You know, look at the quote. Where does the quote come from? Maybe it comes from Moses. So if it comes from Moses, have a look at the Torah. Or if you get a quote from Lao Tzu, then pick up the Taoism, pick up the Tao Te Ching. The Tao Te Ching is about that thick as a tiny book, very profound, but it leads you into Taoism. And of course, when you start going into Taoism, you open doors into Zen Buddhism. And when you start going into Zen, you start going into, you know, you can perhaps go into archery. Archery is a great form of meditation, but they're just portals to opportunities and information everywhere. This world is so abundant. We are so blessed. We've got so many opportunities. They're there. The only thing that's going to close these doors is if we start falling into anger, you know, and we get caught up. I'm not, you know, someone said to me the other day, I'm not going to look at the Quran. I'm not going to look at the Bible. It's, you know, the Bible's full of hate. It's full of anger. I'm not going to look at the Quran. I'm not going to look at you know, the Bhagavad Gita. I'm not good. You know, they've got so many misconceptions about what these books mean and about religion and how bad religion has been and all the rest of it. I'm not interested in that. I'm not even doubting it. You know, I'm not having that argument. What I'm saying is there is information in those books that I personally have found to be very profound. And the information with most of them is free. They want to spread the word. You don't have to fall into any dogma. Just go in and see what they've got to learn. Be at the feet of somebody else. Equally with science, equally with atheists, if they've got something to say, and you know, normally when I speak to atheists, they're normally just people that believe in God, they just don't use the word. They see wonder in the universe, they see space dust, you know, they see that everything's made of the same thing. But when you start getting caught up and angry about other forms of, you know, if the scientists get angry with religion and religion gets angry with science, we close the door to new information. So for me, I follow my intuition and I open portals, and suddenly I'm in a whole new reality, and I'm aware that I'm the one that's created it. I'm the reality maker. We all have the opportunity to do that every single day. The information is there. The information is free.